Hello viewers, subscribers, and onlookers all the same. This is the Rodimus. Now originally on Gamefaqs I made a very good post about interviewing the past greats of the grid in order to give a modern day perspective about the mindset or perspectives of the historical players that wrote the book on playing leaderboards, playing it by the book, and just trying to pass it on what it is that they know in order to try and continue to make the grid a better place to socialize and to play. One such individual that I have here as my initial interviewee in my panel is none other than StraxusPrime. Strax, how you be?
Hey dude, how you doing?
I've been doing alright, Strax. This has been a while since last time we had a chance to really sit and hit up a good conversational.
Yeah, I know. It's quite fortunate that I've actually been able to free up my schedule, so thank you for having me.
All the pleasure's all mine. Gotta do something else other than YouTubing together.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, my questionnaire panels that I was going to get ready to ask you here, it's all the same outline that I originally posted on Gamefaqs.com for the online community to look at.
Yeah.
And so I guess we can just go ahead and hop right on into it.
Sure thing.
Alright. Question one that I'm going to ask was, what had inspired you to make a difference in the communities that you were a part of?
I think I was definitely influenced by various gaming associations. A couple of popular ones, MLG and ESL. They definitely inspired me to do something different through watching Call of Duty tournaments and watching championships and stuff like that, and that is really the basis that fueled me wanting to do things in the community. So I think quite a while back I tried setting up a kind of league system, kind of tournament system, to help structure the community a bit better and be able to give credit to those who put in the time and put in the effort to play matches. That was the original goal for those various tournaments that I started to create. So definitely, yeah, the various massive gaming organisations that are out there now, such as Major League Gaming, were definitely an inspiration in my efforts.
Wow. How long has MLG been around?
As far as I know, it's been around for the past 20 years now. Not particularly 100% sure on that, so you would have to hold me against that if I am wrong, or anyone else. But I'm pretty sure it's always been a thing for the past 25 years. I think it originally started in Halo 1 or 2, I can't remember exactly.
A game name like that, it sounds like it would originate from an older FPS.
Yes, yeah. Halo has been definitely a long-standing
That's a
franchise.
that's a time-honored FPS without a doubt.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the greats that is up there in terms of first-person shooter franchises.
Okay. Question 2. How has the online community affected you all around?
In general, it's sort of just trying to think how to put it. How has it affected me personally in my everyday life?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Right. Okay.
I believe that's the perspective I want to ask.
Yes, it definitely did take up a lot of my time, being in the community, sorting out clan battles and coordinating 7 other people who were in my team, depending on the time. So it definitely did take up quite a lot of my time, and whenever I did have any free time to spare, when I was at school, or about the past year when I was working, I was always whenever I did have a chance, I was always looking on Gamefaqs and keeping up to date with everything that's going on. It's like even now, after finishing playing FOC competitively, I even do drop in from time to time just to check up, because that's just what I've always done. So it's definitely a habit that dies hard.
Yeah, that watching over effect.
So it's like I'm always there. I'm always watching. People may think that I don't, but so I'm always there in the shadows, just watching from the sidelines, checking up on how everyone's doing and who's in what team and stuff. So I am still quite interested in like the FOC community as a whole, but I just don't have the passion to sort of play the game because that's like the main part of the game.
Yeah, is to have a drive to want to keep going involved in it
and playing it. Yeah, and it's like my desire to do that is like died out, but I still love the community that we built as a whole very much. So yeah, I'm still watching.
Does it still feel the same with I guess the revival of the golden era? Because with the PS4 with the PS4 adaptation of the gameplay now, it feels in a sense for a lot of older players that may occasionally come back onto the grid, it's like it revived the golden era of the gameplay anew. Because it further opened the door for older players to just hop back on and chat with some people just like it were back in the day.
Yeah, it definitely. I think it definitely opened a new dynamic. Brought back quite a bit of memories, because I'm pretty sure even now it still runs on the original patch notes, doesn't it? With the old meta where the scout was an absolute monster, I believe.
You caught on to that analysis.
Yeah.
The game. Yeah, the PlayStation 4 version. It still feels like it's in a beta format.
Yeah, and yeah, it does bring back like some sort of memories, but I think that's what ultimately killed the game on the PS4 version. I'm pretty sure it's even more inactive than the PS3 because of the sheer unbalanceedness of
the unbalanced mechanics
and such. Yeah. So I think it definitely brought a lot of the old timers back, but it was only nostalgia. I think that brought them back for a short amount of time. But like, if something's unbalanced, then like people aren't going to play it because
there wouldn't be a sense of fairness.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like a sense of enjoyment if you knew that you had one supreme like godlike character and you could kill anyone without any ease. So to me, like personally, it just wasn't like captivating enough for me to like go back into FOC on PS4. It just for me personally, it sort of like firmly established that I really did have enough of playing the game in general. So yeah, I think it definitely did bring back quite a lot of the old timers for nostalgia's sake, but I think it eventually killed it because of the the patch notes that it was running on, because it was still running on the old meta. But I think it definitely does bring old timers back from time to time, especially on the PS3 version, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of old timers that still occasionally decide to plug in the old PlayStation 3 and just hop on and just play a couple of games, meet up with some old teammates.
True.
Well, yeah, I think it definitely does pull, or it did pull some old timers back into it.
I can believe that. I've seen share some names that I either haven't seen since I first started in the community back in 2015, or some that some of my friends may occasionally point out before I even met them. It's like, oh yeah, that's definitely an old school player. I've seen that name in a while.
Yeah. You do have the oddballs that go back from time to time.
True, and oddballs are definitely what carry good comedic relief in a stressfully captivating competitive environment.
It definitely does.
Let me see. Question 3. While, I mean, I know you and it is a rather self-explanatory question, I will still state it all the same. What is your stance on like the hackers and common cheaters that we know of in the community?
Like, honestly, it's just a completely black and white answer for me, really, to give that, because I'm a very like strong sort of moral code guy. So if I see something that's not right, I don't agree with it whatsoever under any kind of circumstances. So for someone to exploit the game and to cheat in some kind of way to get an advantage over another player is nothing but the lowest of the low of people. If you cheat in any kind of way, then realistically speaking, you're worse at the game than someone who's just started that very day and has only played the game for 10 minutes, in my eyes anyway, because you're exploiting the game's mechanics to benefit yourself on leaderboards and such, to make a name for yourself. It's just based on a false,
I guess, illusionary stance.
Yeah, a false illusion. I was trying to think of the word. Because ultimately, you have no power if you. Sorry, the phone's just.
Yeah, hang on.
Took my tone before.
Hang on.
You.
Okay. All right, hang on. There might be one more ring coming. Okay, we're good.
There you go. It's just thrown me completely.
I know how you mean, because I mean, when I'm sitting there and I'm in the zone, pressing buttons like there's no tomorrow, and the phone rings, like, ah, damn it.
It just knocks out your turn of thought completely.
Exactly.
That's what I was saying. It gives, like, it's a false sense of power. So, you know, you're not worth the time or the bother. So if you were to ever come across a cheater, I would never stoop down to their level just to say I'm better, because by them cheating, it just tells you that they're never going to be good at the game if they resort to cheating. Whether it's a simple hack like changing colours and stuff like that, you're not playing the game to how the developers wanted it to be played. So if you exploit the game in any way, such as colours and stuff like that, there's no way to tell, especially in a competitive sense, if the opposite player is cheating. I guess the easiest example for me to give is definitely the way War for Cybertron worked in terms of his glitching and hacking. So you could easily tell who was glitching like a chassis because you would either see you'll see a jet flying around with a tank cannon. It was easy to see because it brought it up on the scoreboard. But
Yeah, you can
as the
see
game got on,
you can see the inconsistency of chassis and what you're actually visually seeing not adding up continually.
yeah, and that's easy to tell. But then it got even finer when you started having players glitching the individual perks onto different classes.
That's when it gets harder to tell.
Yeah, such as I'm pretty sure there was a
Sharpshooter.
perk. Sorry.
Let me roundabout question, but let me guess. Glitching sharpshooter, for instance.
Yes, just
Common.
glitching the extra perks, not the abilities. I think the perk was called Sharpshooter, which reduces no recoil.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that was on. It's on the
Soldier class.
Soldier class. So it's like if an individual was to glitch that onto like a scout with a null ray, they would literally have no recoil of their weapons, which is ridiculously overpowered. But there would be no way of visually proving that in terms of like a referee, because they can't physically see their screen or see what they're doing. If it was on like PC or something like that, where you had spectators who could go in and look at the classes and stuff, they could definitely see if someone was cheating. But obviously there isn't any kind of function like that in that game, so you never know if someone's cheating. So it doesn't matter whether if it's an appearance look or a straight up like mod glitch, like a rapid fire thermo rocket cannon. If you are exploiting the game in any kind of way, you're not playing it to the way the developers made it to play. Therefore, you're cheating, and you are the lowest person on the planet for doing it. That's always the strong moral view that I've had.
I got you. I mean, granted, it's one thing to, I guess, in a playful sense with friends in a good friendly environment or in a private match or something to do that and expose a glitch or something with a friend just for fun or something like that. But it's a completely different matter to do this for a personal game.
Yeah, exactly. I have to admit that I myself, especially on War for Cybertron, did do glitches such as the infinite poke glitch. I'm pretty sure I got outside of every map on that game, and playing hide and seek and all that. And I would exploit glitches and stuff like that in private matches with my friends, where it was all easy going, and nothing was on the line of sorts, such as leaderboard scores and stuff like that. It was just literally casual. I would completely use glitches if it was agreed with by the friends I was playing with in that lobby, but I would never go into a public place and use those glitches, because I think I did say that to you on when we did that War for Cybertron clan battle.
Yes, you did express that to my group that I had at that time about how you felt about that, and they did understand that, because I mean, at the time that you were online at that time, I know we were doing public practice just to get a feel about how to work with each other and play off each other in case it was a 2v2. And yeah, I know I can understand your disappointment at that time about people that were just openly using mods, I believe at the time, the color mods.
Yeah.
And it was also something that I had previously expressed in a previous analysis of WFC. It's WFC's unstable community. This is where we are. about how there is something for color modding in just colors, basic colors, and then there's also other files that can be systematically grafted into those side files alongside color, so you might be getting something else in addition to color modding.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole shitty mess.
Yeah. Like the way I look at it is that the developers closed off those colours for a specific reason. Whatever that reason may be, the only one I could possibly think of is that it was hard for people to tell who were allies and who were enemies, who were Autobots and who were Decepticons, and that's why they got rid of particular colours and locked them away. So for people to go into the system files and exploit them just so they can access that, that's still just as bad as someone modding like a thermo rocket cannon, because you're exploiting the game. You're opening files that have been locked by the developers, so they've locked it for a specific reason. So if you're cracking into them, it's modding, it's cheating,
Rewriting code,
and
basically.
it's not right. It's not right.
Just basically rewriting code.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's where I stand on the whole modders and glitching. If it wasn't put in the game, then you don't use it. It's pure and simple. If you do, you're a cheater, and you're the lowest person on the planet. So that's just my very strong view of that.
Okay. That's an opinion that can be taken to heart. Question 4, which is sort of like question 3, but it is a reiterated perspective, is what is your stance on individuals that have to bend the rules, seen or otherwise implied, to achieve a goal or to prove a general point?
I think it really does depend on the general point of it, because if it's such as exploiting a method to get on top of the leaderboards, then that is a wrong use of that to do that. But if we're in terms of showing how ridiculously overpowered a certain weapon is, then yeah, I would say that's how you can prove a point. Such as I'm trying to think back to, I think it was in the old meta where the I can't think of what it's called. It's been so long since I played FOC.
Malware?
No, it wasn't. The X18 in the old meta was ridiculously overpowered. You could easily cross-map people with an X18. So, for people using a broken gun to prove a point of how broken it is and that it shouldn't be used, then that's all right. But if you're exploiting, broken weapons and such to gain an advantage, then it's kind of like you're taking the own joy out of your game, if that makes sense.
That does make some sense. The stance, I'm still on question 4 here. For those that had to bend the rules or seen otherwise implied, let me rephrase that perspective. What about those that see the rules differently? That you both, like, you're both looking at the exact same situation, but the ruling is different, or the ruling is seen differently, but they want to pose a strong case about it that has no footing.
I would say that it's definitely, if it was just like a leader to a leader, um, like a clan leader to another clan leader, and there was a difference between them in terms of what you said. Um, it, it would definitely you would definitely have to bring people from the outside to share their comments and and pull it to a vote. Pretty much a typical democratic way of doing things. So, do you agree that this weapon should be used? Yes or no, and then do it on that. It's pretty much how. I think it's pretty much the most even thing. Best way of doing things is just putting it to asking people from an outside source who are unbiased. They don't know. They're not particularly biased towards a certain team. You just ask them, like an outside source,
A
straight
general.
up to. Sorry.
Oh, not to interrupt you, but like a general question stated from like a blind spot from that doesn't see what's going on at all. So their
Yeah.
perspective would not favor either or, but just favor the correct direction of the question that you asked.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that's where a lot of disagreements start, especially in the FAC community, because it's a typical, he said, she said.
Yep.
My English is terrible. Um, it's that typical situation where they don't agree on what's fair, and that's where it leads to disagreements. It leads to falling out, and it leads to month on month drama over like such a simple thing that literally, if you were to ask others to share their view on it, they could pull it to bed in like this simple like weekend, like over the next couple of days, just to do that, just to decide, oh, that's fair and that isn't. But if you're trying to, like, as a clan leader, if you're trying to exploit a way around a rule set, that's where you need to make sure that the rules are airtight, so that nothing like that can happen. So you need to pull it in right into the other clan leader, and you both need to read over it and highlight any key areas that may cause trouble, and then make that a final agreement, and then post it on Gamefaqs so everyone can see what's going on. That's how I always did things. I sent a message to the other leader saying, these are the rules we would like. Would you like to include any in that? And then
Oh,
they
like a
would send me one
contract.
back. Yeah, like a contract. And they would add things that they agreed with my rule set, and things they would add in, come to a compromise, and then take it from there into the final game. I think that's always the best way of doing it. But if you just set it up on like the wind, so like meeting 5 minutes before the match, you're leaving yourself to problems coming up. And if you're desperate for a win as a clan leader, you're going to try and pull any kind of strings just to get that win. So I think it's also a protection to let others view in to the room through the window, because it stops any shady business going on. So definitely looking to outside sources is where I would always personally go, and it's what I would recommend to anyone who's setting up clan matches. Always get a second opinion from others, just so you can make sure rules are airtight and that no one can exploit the rule set in a particular way.
Like to try and find solidarity in common placed rules or views of commonplace rules.
Yeah, exactly. Because during the game's early days, um, Darmount Gaming was known for having uh, a specific rule set called like the DMG rules, because to the community, it was so outrageous to have those rules in the first place that it was just weird just playing by those particular rules. That's why they called them the DMG rules. But as time's gone on, that's actually become the main basis of a lot of the clan battles that are even happening now. So it's simple, like two best 2 out of 3, only 2 of a class, usually 4v4, and a couple of weapon bans depending on the preferences of the clans. I know that DMG definitely banned the I think it was the Chaos Rift Combustor.
The Destroyer's cluster gun, yeah.
Yeah. We pretty much always banned that. And I know EL preferred to ban the Gear Shredder because of the homing stuff in regards to that weapon.
If I may, where did the Fire Blast ban come from?
Sorry?
I was going to say, in that thing about the different standing of the rules, if that's the case for working in, I can see that coming in, and then I can see the Gear Shredder perspective taking a ban or being selectively added in or taking out depending upon clan battle preference or clan preference. Where did the Fire Blast ruling come into play? Because I'm trying to think, when was it that it became associated with non-clan battling activities?
It pretty much came in during, I would say, after the first 2 years of the game, because players started noticing that the burn effect actually stopped individuals from changing form if they had a burn effect on them. So because the Fire Blast has a very, very consistent
stacking
over time effect
stacking effect.
Yeah, that affects a player even if you just clip them the tiniest bit and stops them from changing form. That was viewed as a very overpowered thing, because it was easy to have put the fire effect on someone and stop them from changing form. Now, I know in terms of the Destroyer and the Scientist, if you ever did have a fire effect put on you, it was a very scary situation to be in, because for the Destroyer, you don't really have too much ammo in your guns. I think the riot cannon has about 4 shots, and the A4 has 3. So pretty much when you're out of ammo, it's best to transform and have it reload both guns and then transform again. But if you had your fire effect on, it would stop you from transforming, and you would have to take your time reloading both of your weapons, and then by then, because you're not shooting your opponent,
you're either low or you're dead.
They've already killed you. And in terms of the Scientist had quite low health and could never really escape from any battles, because as soon as they drop under the 150 mark, it's get out of there time. And by having a fire effect on them, they wouldn't be able to change form and quickly get away. So that was one of the main reasons why the Fire Blast was banned by some clans. Personally, I didn't really see too much of a problem with it, because I knew that several other guns did put that effect on, such as the Corrosive Slime Cannon and the I'm trying to think what it's called. The lightning gun, Tech Volt. That's it. Those guns put anything with a damage effect on stops you from changing form. but it's sort of like the Fire Blast was quite one of the most damaging ones, so that's why a lot of clans tended to rule that out compared to the Tech Volt or the Corrosive Slime Cannon.
Because it's just a really like a blunt. It's like a blunt weapon.
Yes, the Fire Blast hit a lot harder than the Corrosive Slime Cannon and the Tech Volt. The Fire Blast just hit like a train compared to those two guns. So that's one of the reasons why the Fire Blast was actually banned in some clan battles, depending on the individual clan.
Okay. That adds some sense on the rule outline. Question 5. Does leaderboards hold sentimentality for you?
I think, yes, it definitely does. In terms of getting quite high on the leaderboard, so everyone likes to say that they're number one, and they're number 10 or they're number 15, number 13, number 2, number 3. Everyone wants to be at the top of the leaderboards. So I think for me personally, I would like to be at the top of the leaderboards, but it's a lot of time to invest in staying up there. So it's like once I've achieved something, that's like I'm quite happy to leave it then for good, because as soon as Rise of the Darkspark came out, I managed to get to number 1 on one of the maps on that game just after it first came out. I got to the number 1 spot on Broken Hope on that game, and I was quite happy with that achievement. But after I achieved that, I didn't really continue with that and try and stay number 1, because it's a lot of work and effort to put in to stay in, particularly at the number 1 spot. So I think once I achieve something, I'm not really too fussed about keeping it. It's like I was number 1 on Broken Hope on Rise of the Darkspark. I was number 1 in the world for kills and team deathmatch for the FOC PS4 version when that first came out. So it's kind of a yes and no response to that question, because I do like to get pretty high on the leaderboards, but am I ultimately too bothered about it? No, not really.
I think I can understand how that's a yes and no question. It matters because you were able to pull it off, so you say you did it at least one time. But it doesn't matter to you if you lose that spot because it still had occurred at one point or another.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. But I was contemplating about putting that on my panel because it was because I didn't know whether or not it would be a difference of perspective based off of generation players, from older players and newer players. Because I know with a lot of newer players that I've seen interacted with in the community for the times I'm on PS4 grinding away to get my headhunter thing up, I've interacted with a lot of different players that like leaderboard is like the whole world to them.
Yeah, I think that is definitely in terms of respect. So this is one of the things that definitely aggravated me about the whole leaderboard situation, because some people just absolutely idolize the leaderboards. They think if you're number 1 in the world, you are the best player in the world. Like you are like an absolute god and no one can beat you. But you see, the thing is about that is that you don't have to be the best, like the number 1 player in the world on the leaderboards to be the best player in the game. because at the end of the day, the leaderboard is just a tally of points. It doesn't exactly show any kind of skill level, especially the FOC and WFC the leaderboards. They don't show the finer stats that like a Call of Duty game would, because a Call of Duty game would show you the average KD of the player, how many kills they get per minute. But the FOC boards only base it on general normal facts. So how many kills has this player had in total? How many times have they captured a spark and taken it to the node? How many shots they fired? It's not very defined as like a big game like Call of Duty is. So in terms of FOC, you can never assume that someone is going to be a god just because of where they are on the leaderboards, because those leaderboards don't show anything. They do show how much you play and how many kills you've had, but it doesn't tell you anything about like their style of play, their thought process, and their skill level at all. It just gives you like a number. Oh, that's how many kills this player has. That's how many shots they fired over the course of the game. That's how many hours they played in total. It doesn't show you the actual skill level of the player itself. So in terms of me, I was never in the top half of the FOC leaderboards on PlayStation 3. I think I'm in the 300, something like that. And it's like, I've got one of the lowest play times in the game out of all of the pros who were playing when I was playing. I think I only had 8 hours of public play in total. And it's like, if you compare me to like numpties, like yes, Numpty's a very, very, very strong player. I absolutely idolise the guy, and you know, our skill levels are on certain classes are very, very similar, such as on our destroyers. We're both very, very strong destroyers. And it's like it's a total difference from a player who's level 3, like on the leaderboards is 300 something, to the number 1 player in the world. But it's like if you put the number 3 player in the world against like the level 1000, you don't know who's going to win based on the stats that the FOC leaderboards give. So it's like you can't underestimate anybody based on their leaderboard scores, because they don't give enough information to make that assumption, if that makes any sense to you.
No, that does make some sense, because there was a couple of questions from a lot of my playing group that had asked about strong players that you've met on leaderboards. And that's why I told them, honestly, barring PS3 categories outside TDM and player kills, it varies. But on TDM and player kills itself, I can tell you, because I've met them all in some way, shape, or form. I've met them all, talked to them all, and I can tell you that the score there, it varies, but some of them can give you hints as to how good they are or how they think when they play. Like for instance, actually got to use him as an example again. Numpties, I would say, because before FOC leaderboards was hacked with the number 1 slot being taken right now, with the slot that he had before Gears or Bane grinded to get his spot, when he had the number 1 spot and then it became the number 2 spot, he still had the least amount of login time out of anybody who's on either or listings. But still had a mostly, if not the highest score on both records respectively. And so it gave you an idea that if you didn't clock in that much work but was still able to attain such a vastly astronomical score, and it was still holding after all this time, even for the brief stints that he does in making an appearance here or there, then that might tell you something about how he plays or how straightforward he may be in playing.
I think it's I have to agree with you to a degree. In terms of Num, he is an absolute phenomenal player. I'm not going to deny that in any kind of way, but it's hard to judge a player's skill level from those stats alone. Yes, Numt did have a lot of kills and a lot of playtime, but it's like someone else below him. It's like in terms of, I guess, the one player I can think about that sticks out in my mind anyway is Yuggle. Now, I know for a fact that Yuggle isn't exactly the best scientist out there in the game. Not entirely sure if he still plays or not, but whenever I did see him play, he was not at the level that Numt was in terms of skill, but Yuggle was still up there in quite a couple of the top leaderboards, especially I think it was Conquest. He was especially quite high on Conquest, but in terms of in like a competitive match, his skill was amazingly outmatched compared to Nump's. It's like you could see there was a definite difference in skill level, yet they were still pretty. They were still both very high up on the leaderboards, but that's simply just because of the amount of time and effort that both of those players put in to playing the game, because I'm pretty sure they both played it religiously. I don't think there was any one time that I did not see both of them play in public when I was off playing different games or playing with like my clan mates on different games or in private matches, training sessions and such. They would play the game religiously, but putting them both together and seeing where they were both very close to each other on the leaderboards, but in terms of skill level, Nump was easily 70% better than Yuggle was in terms of the scientist and all the other classes for that fact. So you can't totally go off leaderboards, especially the FOC ones. It depends on the kind of leaderboards. If we're talking about the Call of Duty leaderboards, then yes, you can totally base everything off those kinds of leaderboards because they give you more information about the kills per minute, how many matches they've done, how many kills they average in every single game. You just can't take that from a leaderboard that only gives you, this is the amount of kills that they've had in total over the course of their playing career.
That's another thing I noticed that plays into my question somewhat, is because the representation of leaderboards does vary from video game franchise to video game franchise. Because some show more detail, some shows less detail.
Yes, exactly. So it's, especially on FOC, it's harder to judge skill level because playtime, any player can rack up a lot of playtime and get a lot of kills over time, but it shows when you play those players directly. You can see the difference in how they play, and like I said, the greatest example of that was Yuggle and Numpties. They were both on the same team. They both put in a lot of hours playing the game publicly, but ultimately, were they at this equal skill level? Not by any means. Like Numpt amazingly outbeat Yuggle in quite a lot of areas, but still they were very close to each other on the leaderboard. So it definitely does show that you can't, especially on FAC, you can't judge a player by their leaderboard score, because they could just put in a ton of hours and get the amount of kills they do, or just play a lot of Conquest compared to Team Deathmatch. So the only way to base their skill level is to play them head on and find that out for yourself. That's how I've always seen the leaderboards.
Hands-on experience says everything.
It's hands-on experience outweighs numbers any time. So I will easily say who are the best players in the FAC game of all time. In my opinion, I could give you a top 10 straight up who I think are the best players, because that's based on my experience of playing them. But you see, on the other hand, what my top 10 would be is completely different to what yours may be.
That may be, because if yours is from an older perspective and mine's from a newer perspective. Ooh, we'll be here a while. Emphasis on the H.
Yes. So yeah, you definitely can't take you can't take the FAC leaderboards and transfer that into skill, because it doesn't give the leaderboards just don't give enough information for you to do that. Because Mr. Joe Bloggs, who's 500, might be an absolute god at the game, and he could easily beat number 2. It just depends on playtime and skill level, and you can only experience skill by playing a player directly, because skill level doesn't transfer into those FAC leaderboard skills. It does show a little degree in it, especially in Nump's case, but you have to bear in mind that he did play the game religiously and consistently, so he was able to maintain a lot of kills and a lot of playtime because he put in the work to do that.
Definitely.
But definitely the leaderboard skills do not show skill level. Yes, they have a small effect on it, like a very small, I would say about 20%. They show what a player can do, but ultimately they don't show the full 100% on how good a player is.
Yeah, what fills in that gap is just basically the hands-on experience, like seeing it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Question 6. Have you had the chance to play for a clan or a gaming group of friends?
Funnily enough, I have been in quite a couple of clans, believe it or not, on the side of Darmount Gaming. I'll give you a little history lesson. The first clan that I joined was Dartmount Gaming. Now it was called something else entirely. I'm not going to go into that because there were quite a lot of name changes down the line. The first clan that I joined was Dartmount Gaming, but the very, very early version of it. I wasn't the leader from straight off. I think it was about a year into War for Cybertron that I took over the team from my previous mentor. And then from there I took over it for the rest of War for Cybertron, into Fall of Cybertron, and then into Destiny, and that's where my leadership responsibilities have been passed on to the next leader, or leaders as I should say. So I've always been a part of Dartmount Gaming, but I have joined teams on the side. So I have joined a couple of competitive Call of Duty teams. Now those were some brief times, I can't even remember the team names because it was for such a small period of time, and yeah, I'm just unable to remember what those teams were called. So I did play for two competitive Call of Duty teams that played competitive on Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Ghosts.
You were part of a gaming clan there?
Yeah. It was when the game was into its first 5-6 months. I was part of a team on there, a competitive team that played game battles on MLG. So I did that for a little bit, but then I mainly my attention was divided because I still loved playing Transformers for the Cybertron. So that's just where, what I wanted to pursue was totally different to my teammates. So that's why we parted ways. So yeah, I have played for two Call of Duty teams as well as being in Dartmouth. And then I did make a no, actually, yes, the second Call of Duty team. Sorry, the second competitive Call of Duty team was actually with some of my IRL friends, and that was on Call of Duty Ghosts. So we pretty much did a lot of the Clan Wars stuff on there, and we played a couple of MLG like competitive matches on that, and that was with my in real life friends that I'm still friends with now. And yeah, that's apart from that, that's all the teams that I've really been with. I did for a brief time join Elite Legends for a brief time. That was for about 3 months. That was during when I wanted to have a little bit of a break from leading Dartmount Gaming, and the team just wanted a break in general. So that's where I joined the Elite Legends for a small time, just to see exactly how others lead their teams.
Oh, okay.
And then I was in lines to joining LSC, but that fell through for a couple of different various reasons that were completely my own fault.
So now I still need the midday for tomorrow.
So pretty much after that, I went back to leading Dartmount Gaming.
Okay.
So yeah, that is pretty much how my competitive clan life has been. I've always been a part of Dartmount Gaming. It's like you can leave home, but you always come home.
I got
if that makes any sense.
That does make some sense. Once upon a time, even though I've been primarily tact, all about tackety tack. I mean, what nobody knows is once upon a time I was given an offer that I did take for a day to try out, but I was a part of ACW once upon a time. But short but sweet.
It just shows that you're always going to miss where you came from. It's like any place.
Yeah. Okay, well, to continue in the panel, since you did go over the chance to play for a clan or the game group of friends as you had stated, how has the clan scene or the battling scene evolved your perspective on being associated with the community?
I think definitely in terms of the way that the community has evolved in terms of team standards, so it's became a lot more sophisticated. I think I'm saying that right. So the way that teams are now doing it is completely different to how they were doing it during the War for Cybertron times. Because in War for Cybertron, it was pretty much just an all-out slaughter. Everything goes, and now it's kind of distinguished out in individual players. There's a much higher skill level, I think, because it was in War for Cybertron. It was, like I pretty much said, it was just an all-out brawl. So the terms of the skill level wasn't as narrowed down as it is in FOC, because in FOC now we have a ton of rule sets, specific rules that take out the very easy to kill sort of things. So definitely the only two of a class rule is definitely a good one, because a whole team running Titans with Harvesters, that doesn't really that wouldn't really show a skill level, really. Just using the easier things in the game, such as 4 barrier destroyers. It's became more sophisticated in terms of you actually have to think of how to counter the other team. So if they've got better destroyer players, what should we put against them? Better Titans, more Titans, specific setups. Harvesters, X-18s. Are we planning on slowing down their scientists? Using corrosive slime cannons. So I think as time has gone on, the clan scene has definitely gotten a much more higher skill level, and it's a lot more refined than it used to be.
The evolution of the community, in a sense, also, I guess, in a sense, civilized the outlook of general gaming proficiency.
Yeah, because it was. I think all of the teams now have a lot more respect for each other than they did in the past. Because in the past it was just full out trash talk, and a lot of upsets and a lot of rivalries and hurt feelings. But now it's a newfound respect. So definitely during Darkmount's days, we really respected PF, because they were a very, very solid capture the flag team, and then also LSC.
Good old Ethan.
We respected them massively because of the way they went out in their conquests, and then obviously EL in terms of raw talent in its individuals.
Yeah, but there's pretty much a team that was known for solidarity in that one area in each regard.
Yeah.
Too bad there wasn't a clan for Headhunter. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. We didn't really get to see too much of Cybertronian Headhunters. I'm not really too sure what happened with that team. I think it was pretty much the leader was too busy to kind of keep it going.
C8. Oh, wait a minute, that was a thing. CHH.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I gotta do my clan history researching. Let's see, that knocks out number 6. Question 7. What's more important to your perspective on enjoying the adventure offered in the gameplay? Friendship or power itself?
I would definitely have to say it's a combination of both, really, because since multiplayer games have become the norm now, you really feel the difference when you're playing a single player game now, because it's not like it was 15 years ago, where literally playing a single player game was that was just a whole area of the game. There was no such thing as multiplayer. The earliest multiplayer games that started coming out in terms of online was probably late PS2 days, early Xbox 360 and PS3. So it's ever since then, multiplayer has became such a massive area and focus of most video game companies. So, whenever I'm personally playing a single player now, I do tend to get quite bored playing a single player because I know there's an online aspect. It's always good to play with friends, and it's very easy to get bored when you're playing by yourself. So having friends there definitely makes things a whole lot better, makes the experience better. And then in terms of power, you've always got to you always want to be more powerful, especially in terms of an RPG. It's never fun being the underpowered person and having to fight basically like being a level 5 and going against the level 100. So in terms of that, things.
Hold that thought. The call dropped. I need to bring the call back up. Give me a second, viewers, and I will reiterate my question. Okay, to revise, question 7. What's more important to your perspective on enjoying the adventure offered in the gameplay? Friendship or power itself?
I definitely think it's both. Single player, games in general, they've evolved so much from being single player to multiplayer. So multiplayer is such a massive part of video games now for the past 10, nearly 15 years. So having that aspect of making friends and having someone there to enjoy the game with is definitely a lot better than a single player game. And then in terms of power, it's always nice to be like a level 100 and go into a lower level area and be able to wipe the floor with people. I guess
True.
In one way, it's I could best explain that is in Trials. You really do enjoy the moment where you go in there and you can wipe a whole team by yourself, but without friends there, to share that moment, you can't have one thing without the other. I definitely think.
True, and that's a good example of a game where teamwork is a really good structure, and it makes the gameplay itself even more enjoyable.
Yes, it does. Yeah, definitely.
And after all this time, does your mindset still settle upon both?
Yeah, I think as time has gone on, it's definitely made me more grateful for both. Because playing by yourself is never as fun as playing with people, and in terms of power, it's you always want to be the best, be the most powerful, be the bad boy on the block, I guess. So yeah, definitely both.
Okay. Okay, and to hit upon our last question here on the panel, what is your advice to the newer generation of players seeking a great online adventure to be had?
Definitely don't go it alone because it's very, very boring. Definitely find a good group of mates you can trust and get along with well. You don't ever want to have someone who's taking the mick out of you consistently and making it in doing it in such a harsh way. It's good to have a little bit of banter. A good taking the mick out of each other, but you don't want to full on be slandering each other, otherwise they're not really mates. So definitely have a good group of mates you can have a good laugh with and and to play along with, and have definite goal together. So in terms of a clan, definitely one of the things that inspired me and my teammates was the goal of being the top clan, being the best, and definitely sharing what we could do together as a team. Because especially for Dartmouth, we weren't exactly the most amazing players in the game. I don't think we ever did have an amazing roster with absolute slighters in. It was always just average players, and the things that we achieved together was definitely amazing, and it was such a good thing to share those things with my mates. So yeah, definitely don't go it alone. Have some good mates you can have a laugh with, and make sure that it's best if you're all interested in similar things, because there's nothing more boring than playing a game that you really just don't want to play because all the others are playing it. So that's really my advice as a whole for anyone starting, wanting to play with friends. In terms of a clan, I definitely have to say, if you're going to start a clan with your mates, definitely direct one person to be in charge of that clan, who's the most responsible and the most organised and the most mature. Because there's nothing worse than putting someone in charge who just doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have any goal. You definitely want someone who's driven. So it's best to nominate someone who has those qualities that I said, and always try and stick together. Don't just throw in the towel at the first hurdle, because there's always going to be hurdles. So just try not to give up and just persevere and just keep going. It doesn't matter how bad it gets, because after every dark night there is a sunrise at the end and a new day. So that's definitely the advice I would give to those people for that question.
All right. And all the viewers out there, you heard it firsthand. Guy that's seen many a day come and many a day go in this area. Straxus, I thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been definitely a good time.
Without a doubt. Alright guys, and by all means you stay tuned to the next time we have our podcast with some of our friends in the community. Until all are one.